floor mats, or cleaning tools and restroom products, stocked and ready when you need them. Better workdays happen together, so visit Cintas.com.
Oh, I'm ready!
And get ready for the workday.
97.3 ESPN has teamed up with Seize the Deal for incredible weekly offers from some fantastic local restaurants. Here's this week's big deal.
Get a $50 gift card good for use at the 20s Italian Bistro for just $25.
Get this great deal starting Friday at 9 a.m. at seizethedeal.com. Hurry, chances are this deal will sell quickly. For more info on this great deal, go to seizethedeal.com.
seizethedeal.com.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack, but not with ZipRecruiter. Its powerful technology actively finds and invites qualified candidates to apply to your job. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
A town square media station serving all of South Jersey. This is 97.3 ESPN, home of the Philadelphia Eagles.
He is hit! He stumbles! He's down!
WENJ HD Millville, Atlantic City. 97.3 ESPN presents The Sports Bash with Mike Gill. It's time for Football at 4 with Geoff Mosher.
I think our track record in the last 20 years, how many NFC East titles, playoff appearances, and appearances in the NFC Championship game, those are some of the metrics I look at, and I'll compare our record with almost anybody.
Powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. Now, live from inside the Matt Black Kia Studios, this is Football at 4.
Football at 4 is brought to you by Bet365. Whatever the sport, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. It's powered by the Inside the Birds podcast, guys. Geoff Mosher's here. You can check out all the Inside the Birds podcasts on their social media platforms. Just search Inside the Birds and their YouTube channel. The Eagles get to 5-0 yesterday with another interesting win over the Rams. I say interesting because, the Eagles looked good in certain aspects, but you wouldn't say it was a clean game. They certainly have things to improve on. Let's take a look at it now. Geoff Mosher from Inside the Birds podcast at InsideTheBirds.com joins us for a look at what happened in L.A. yesterday. What's going on, Moshe?
Hey, Mike, what's going on? The Eagles are 5-0, and it's amazing, right? Doesn't look clean, doesn't look maybe as pretty as you want, but you put the bigger perspective on it, go out west, right? It's a long flight. You got a lot of injuries you got to overcome. Your right guard, you're auditioning a bunch of different slot corners, but you come back, you're 5-0. Only one other team is 5-0, and it just feels like the Eagles are such an overwhelming force in the trenches that they are a hard team to beat. You really got to play your A game to beat them, but they don't have to necessarily play their A game to beat you.
That's a well-put expository on what we've seen with this season so far. But, one of the things, you talk about their A game, that might have been Jalen Hurts' A game of this season anyway. I thought he played a really good game. He added some. He ran. He threw. He made some good throws. I mean, he certainly had probably his best game of the season yesterday.
Yeah, I thought if you really stack it with back-to-back really good games against Washington and this past game against the Rams, it probably alleviates some concerns that people had the first 2 or 3 weeks about the passing game. Certainly A.J. Brown's come alive. I think that this game, the Rams game, might be second to Washington because, to be honest with you, and when the All-22 comes out, we'll look at it a little bit more, but I felt like Jalen Hurts had about 5 to 6 seconds on many dropbacks to be able to throw the ball and find either Goddard or A.J. Brown or whoever. And there were just times that jumped out to me yesterday where he could have made a ham sandwich in the pocket before throwing the ball. And I don't remember it being like that against Washington. I think the Rams don't have great pass rushers. They have Aaron Donald, who's a great pass rusher, but in general, they don't have a ton of pass rush, and they weren't even able to manufacture much of a pass rush when they did blitz. So as good as Jalen looked, I really thought that, especially for a new right guard, the pass protection overall was the star of the game.
Well, that and, I mean, great decision-making, getting Goddard involved showed you, hey, get the ball out quick, he'll be there, bang. I thought getting Goddard involved showed great decision-making, but also, when needed, he had A.J. Brown to bail him out in some big moments. That comes into the pass protection.
Yeah, and, obviously the one-handed catch A.J. Brown made was just unbelievable. One thing we talked about on postgame, Mike, is what separates the Eagles from other good teams that have other good playmakers is that I think you'd be hard-pressed to find a team that has as many playmakers as the Eagles who have the same kind of play strength. We talk about play strength. Doesn't matter what you bench. Doesn't matter, what you look like. Fletcher Cox is a guy who lifts people up and displaces them, right? He may not look like J.J. Watt as far as being chiseled or cut or something like that. Jalen Hurts is a guy who is his play speed is faster than his time speed. So you saw him running a lot more actually, yesterday than he has in the first 4 weeks. And when he runs, he's not a guy who ran like a 4.3 or a 4.4. I think he was 4.6, 4.65, but he's able to just put on those moves that gets him the extra yards and jukes people. And a guy like A.J. Brown, he's just so strong, physically strong. He gets a little bit of a push-off, uses his hands really well, his late hands, but yards after contact, not just yards after catch. The Eagles just have a bunch of guys who their play strength is superior to the defenders that they're going against and shows.
Well, that and, I don't know if evolution of the game is the way to kind of look at it, but the fact that they now have another little weapon, and look, people might say, well, why was their offense better last year? Why did their offense look better? But I'm adding DeAndre Swift, 6 catches, right? The running back last year was not a part of the pass game.
Not at all. It's maybe a dump off, maybe a screen, but not very much. And then you saw it now back-to-back weeks where DeAndre Swift can not only catch the ball, but then make some yards after the catch. He had that really big catch in the fourth quarter around the edge against Washington. He had, I think, 6 receptions against the Rams. So, yeah, that is a part of the game, the evolution of the offense that we talked about going in. And it just gives them and I think that, to your point, the last 2 weeks when a team is going to either come after Jalen really quickly or just maybe rush 4 and drop a lot of guys, those underneath routes are open, and it looks like he has been more willing to take them the last 2 weeks than maybe the first 3 or 4.
Moshe, talk about what you saw with Dallas Goedert. All right, like I've been banking on him. I'm like, for the first 4 games, like he's going to score a touchdown today. All right, now this game didn't happen. And then he explodes yesterday, 8 catches, 117 yards, a touchdown. Longest catch, I think, was, 50 yards. Huge day from him. So, what did the Eagles see to possibly exploit? And then what did you just see from Dallas Goedert as far as finally, arriving, so to speak, with a big game?
Well, I think, Ryan, it's a 2-part thing. First part is the coaches clearly made a conscious effort to get him involved. I mean, when you have 4 catches for 45 yards, I believe, on the opening drive, then when those plays we know, the first 15, 20 plays are scripted, we know that the coaches felt going into the game, they had a good matchup there, but then they also really started to need to get the ball to him to get him engaged in the game. And I thought that once that happened, the body language was better, the yards after the catch and make it. And also, you saw a great block. He puts a nice stiff block on Ernest Jones to spring DeAndre Swift. And his blocking's been fine all year. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying I just think you just saw a completely energized Dallas Goedert because he was so involved from the start. If you go back to the Washington game, late in the game, he didn't have very many targets or catches. There was a blitz. Jalen tried to target him. He didn't exactly run the greatest of routes, and then he kind of turned around late, and the ball wasn't catchable because it looked a little bit like he was just either disengaged or not expecting the ball, right? And maybe that happens when you don't have the ball thrown your way quite a bit, but it was the opposite against the Rams. He was involved early, he was expecting the ball, and then you just saw a great effort from him from start to finish.
Jalen Hurts, 15 rushing attempts, 72 rushing yards, and a touchdown himself. Most rushing yards he's had in a game so far this season, most rushing attempts he's had in a game. A big run late that, sort of went viral on social media as well. Takes a big hit, absorbs it, gets the first down, and then some. So what did you see there? Did you like what you saw from him using his legs? It's just, another trick that the Eagles are able to pull out of the back of their back of their pockets, so to speak, when they really need it.
Yeah, the crazy thing is he had 15 runs, right, in this game, and he was only averaging something like 4 yards per run throughout the first – not 4 yards per run, 4 runs per game through the first 4 weeks, or 4 or 5. It was clearly lower than it had been. It might, maybe even if it was a little more of that. I just remember on the pregame show, we looked at his rushing totals from the first 4 weeks of last year and the first 4 weeks of this year, and it was like 50% less carries and yards from the year before at this time, which to me, and I think we've all seen it with our eyes. I mean, it does look intentional on the coach's part and on Jalen's part to not run him as much. And I thought against the Rams, you did see a few more zone reads, which he kept the ball, especially up the middle, which is a good idea. If Aaron Donald's your read defender, you let him, get that burst upfield, and then you run through the vacated gap that he's coming through. So that helped. And then on the scrambles, you saw him do that too, and make some make us remember the Jalen Hurts of last year. But you also see both sides of the conversation, because he took a couple of hits yesterday on running, right? Do you think that can he do that for 17 games and not have another ankle injury or shoulder injury, or just the wear and tear that you constantly get when you're a quarterback who takes that kind of hit? So I don't know if the game plan is going to be 15 runs for Jalen Hurts from here on out. It may have just been, we think that this is going to be effective against this specific defense that we're playing.
Geoff Mosher, Inside the Birds podcast. Jeff, let's flip to the defense. Sean Desai, early in the game, bang, bang, they're going up and down the field. It looks like it's going to be one of those days where who hits the ball last. What did Desai do to neutralize that back and forth?
Yeah, I'm not sure he did anything other than have a great front four rush that made it really difficult. And also, I think the Eagles' best defense was their offense. I agreed with you. After the first 2 drives for each team, it looked like it was going to be a 40-37 game, and whoever had the ball last, was going to be the one that scored because of the way both teams were moving the ball. But the Eagles grinded out some real long – I think they had, 6 or 7 possessions of at least 7 plays and at least 70 yards or 60 yards. So the defense didn't have to be on the field all that much. And, the Rams come out in the second half. They're in the game, and they don't get third down conversions on their first 2 drives. The first one, they just have to punt away. The second one is sort of where Nick Morrow almost recovers their fumble. They jump on it, but then they still have to punt the ball away. And then the Eagles go up 20-14, and that's where I think the key moment came. The Rams' next possession, so we're talking about the third possession of the second half. It's getting deep into the third quarter now, almost fourth. There was a 3rd and 5, and Bradley Roby made a very crucial, it wasn't a PBU, but he well-defended a bunch route, which was those routes that gave the Eagles problems last week against Washington. So Bradley Roby, who everybody is hoping, please come play the slot and look like a slot corner, did a good job of defending that specific route. They had to punt it away. Eagles scored on their next drive, and then, it was just basically from there, the Eagles went, I think it was 23-14 at that point, and then by the time the Rams get the ball back again, there's just not enough time, and the pass rush, Jalen Carter did a good job, Brandon Graham, Hassan Reddick, it just got on Matt Stafford. He was not able to really move the chains the way he did in the first quarter because of the pass rush.
Well, and the
and
offense.
He missed a few guys too, by the way. He missed Puka Nacua on that post, and that hurt.
He did, and by the way, you mentioned it. There just wasn't enough time. The Eagles, their drives. I mean, they just kept the ball. 17-play, 8-minute drive, 10-play, 6-minute drive, 7-play drive late in the game. I mean, they just kept the ball away. But you just said it. The Bradley Roby, putting him into the game because they were picking on Goodrich early in that game. I mean, they were going to Cup up and down the field, and then they made that change, and that was a key change. But you're right. The heat got turned up, and the Eagles a couple sacks late in the game. Hassan Reddick, 4 sacks in all. Geoff Mosher, check out the Inside the Birds podcast for more reaction to the Eagles' win in L.A. They get to 5-0. Thank you, Jeff.
All right, guys. Talk to you soon. Thanks.